Hola, amigos. This is Billy Sheehan. You're listening to me right here on my weekly mixtape with my dear friend, Brian Kohlberg.
Welcome to My Weekly Mixtape, a podcast that takes the classic mixtape approach to building a modern playlist. I'm your host, Brian Kohlberg. Joining me once again on the show is one of my favorite bass players to ever grace the stage, and that's the one and only Mr. Billy Sheehan. Billy, thank you so much for joining me again to talk music, my friend.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, the last time you were on was all the way back on episode 13, where we dove into songs from throughout your discography, including your time with David Lee Roth, Niacin, the Winery Dogs, Talus, Sons of Apollo. And we also touched on a tour that, at the time, was still in the planning stages, that being Mr. Big's The Big Finish World Tour. How quickly time flies as that tour has officially completed its run, but with that, the band is celebrating the tour with a new release, The Big Finish Live, which serves as a triumphant victory lap, if you will, for the band. Since we talked about the full spectrum of your projects on episode 13, I'd like to use tonight to really hone in on Mr. Big. So with your permission, I'd like to go all the way back to the beginning and the band's 1989 self-titled album.
Right on. That was a good year.
Anyone who listens to this show knows that I am a sucker for album opening tracks, and this is something that Mr. Big knocked out of the park time and time again. So we're going to get started with Addicted to That Rush. The introduction to this track is such a musical, well, for lack of a better word, rush. Could you walk me through the writing process for that song between you, Paul Gilbert, and the late, great Pat Torpy?
Well, very kind of you to say all those complimentary things. Thank you very, very much. I write a lot, and in writing, I keep notes and of ideas for lyrics and ideas for songs. And now I got with my iPhone in the modern day, if I have an idea, I'll set it up, selfie video, play to the iPhone, explain. And then when the chorus comes, we do this. And it makes it easy to write with that. But back in the day, we wrote everything down on paper. And I used to just write titles. It sounds like a song title. So Addicted to That Rush was a title that I'd had for years. No song, but just the idea of being addicted to a particular exciting thing. And so when Mr. Big came around, I had an idea for that to become a song. And we wanted to enhance it with a little bit of a musical intro, basically a boogie, fast boogie kind of a beat. And I did this hammer on this double. Where I hit it. You can get going really fast, but it's easy to do because you're using two fingers to do it. So it's not that tough. And then a lick. Which is a little bit more complicated, but it was kind of cool because Paul Gilbert, being the guitar player, he used to come see me play in Talus when he was just starting out in the music business. So he knew my playing pretty well. So we kind of had a little bit of a parallel on how we were players, and that at some point he was kind of walking next to me, if you will, musically, and then has since gone on to greatness, in my humble opinion. And so we spoke the same language. And so when I was kind of showing him the thing, he knew exactly what I meant. When he'd show me a thing, I knew what he meant. And so it came together really, really nice. Pat Torpy, as a drummer, Pat and I had a great parallel without ever having known each other. We kind of lived the same life. He came from Cleveland. I came from Buffalo. We both ended up in LA. We both played copy bands for years and years. So if I told him Robin Trower, Day of the Eagle, I got it. Jimi Hendrix, whatever, he knows it. Beatles, all of them. Stones, all of them. So we had a great language of that. So he just came up with a right beat at the right time. And we were off. And I did the lyrics for it. And that was Addicted to That Rush.
Wow. Well, sticking with the self-titled album, I've learned over the years through my musical nerdum that the song Wind Me Up is actually a nod to Roy Orbison's Oh Pretty Woman, only played backwards?
Yeah.
I'd love to hear the story behind that.
But then is a backwards. That's Wind Me Up. So that was Paul's idea. Paul's always has an interesting way to come up with an idea, a thing, or a song, or change it. For example, not to go off the subject, Colorado Bulldog, Paul came in and he had this lick that was ascending. Wow, really going? I go, well, now can you do it backwards all the way down? He goes, Paul just put his, okay. So he comes back the next day, okay, I got it all the way up and then all the way down. And then we just started playing a fast boogie beat and came up with a thing, and that became Colorado Bulldog. So the Wind Me Up was it's kind of it's an interesting way sometimes to get an idea. So you hear a lick or something that but hear it backwards or in an odd way or in a minor key or some way different, and it can inspire you to move around. They say good writers write, but great writers steal. Now this wasn't theft, but if you listen to songs now, I follow an Instagram page where a guy points to different songs on the screen, and they're the same song, modern song. And there's a lot of that has gone on through the years. And for me, I always give credit when I get inspired by a particular song. Addicted to That Rush, by the way, it was definitely ZZ Top. It's heard it on the X, kind of a beat.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. So much of Van Halen, Hot for Teacher, so that was all ZZ Top. It was they were the influence of so many bands. But so to get your influence from another band or another song or another artist is not uncommon at all. David Bowie, Life on Mars, is My Way. Basically the same chords. He loved those chords, and basically if you listen to Life on Mars by David Bowie, it takes a lot from the song My Way, and it was intentional. It pays tribute to it. And I don't think he hid that as a secret or anything. So the fact that Wind Me Up was Pretty Woman backwards, we told people that right away. We didn't try to hide it because it's not a violation of publishing rules where we would owe them because it's backwards. So we're off the hook on that. But it's also such a great line. Even backwards, it's pretty cool. So
I absolutely love the track. And when I found that out, I had to listen to it and go, wait a minute, that's right. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Well, you brought up Colorado Bulldog, which was the opening track to 1993's Bump Ahead. We talked about Addicted to That Rush from the 1989 self-titled album. We might as well dive into the opening track on the band's 1991 smash album, Lean Into It, and that is Daddy, Brother, Lover, Little Boy, the electric drill song. can't talk about this song and not get into the story behind how the electric drill came part of this song's legacy. Did that originate from Paul's Racer X days?
It did, yeah. He had I think his singer's name was Jeff Martin, wonderful guy, great singer. And as a joke, he said to Paul, you're so fast. The only way to get any faster is to put picks on the end of a drill. And so he did. It turns out Paul's actually faster than that. The drill can't keep up with him. It's in fact true. And so he used it for just a little joke for a while. And we were in the studio doing the Lean Into It album. And I came in with a song idea. Well, actually, before we rehearsed our songs first before we got to the studio. But I came in with a song idea. I went to the Rainbow Bar and Grill on Sunset, which was my hangout when I lived in L.A., and the waitress, her name was Eileen, behind the bar, a wonderful young lady, dear friend of mine. And I'd go there, and it would be early in the night, not many people, and I'd have a drink, and we're talking and hanging out there. And I said, wait, you got a pen and a napkin or something to write on? He goes, sure. So I wrote down, Daddy, brother, lover, little boy. That was the idea for it. Again, there's a song title, and then the song wrote itself after that. So we got together, worked the song out. It was all ready to go. And then, there was some kind of a cool element to it. So let's do the solo. And Paul said, well, I could do it on the drill. I'll play the solos pretty, da, 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 da. Pretty easy. I could do it with the drill. That'd be hilarious. Okay, good idea. And he goes, well, as long as I'm doing it on the drill, why don't you do a harmony version with me on the bass? So, well, okay, cool. So we got I used his drill and overdubbed my harmony part. I had to play a Taurus bass pedal with my feet to the uninitiated. It's a bass synthesizer that you play with your feet. You only play one note at a time. So for a big, fat, giant, low frequency thing, that's the device to use. And so I had to hold that note because as I was doing the drill thing, there was no low note holding the song together on bass.
Yeah.
So I used the Taurus pedal for that while I did that. Then we also used it at the beginning of the, a little noise, because we noticed that the flaw of using the drill is when you're holding it close to these pickups, the electric pickups, and it's spinning, it makes a huge interference. Now, later on, Ed Van Halen took an electric screwdriver, put it next to his pickup. He didn't touch the string with the screwdriver, but just by playing it, we get the sound of the drill spinning because it creates a lot of electromagnetic interference and the pickup picks that up. So we used a little bit of that noise at the very beginning. And then another little innovation, we took Paul's opening guitar chord and had him hit it real hard with a big. And while he held it, two other guys grabbed the tuning pegs and tuned them all down as it's still ringing. So when you played it backwards, you hear all these things go, and it ends on the chord. So it goes backwards. So I had two little innovations. So when you hear that, the guitar kind of coming together at the beginning of that song, that's a reverse guitar that was detuned by two or three other studio guys after he just would have just held that note. So we got to the solo and bang, it seemed to work out really well. Now, an extra addition to that story, if you don't mind me going a little bit more depth in it.
Of course.
Now, here we were out on tour, touring behind the Lean Into It album. Now we got two albums. We have enough songs. We can play all our own originals and stuff. And we had an amazing manager. His name was Herbie Herbert. Without him, Mr. Big would have never happened. He was the man. He's just one of the most iconic and influential founding fathers of the music business as we know it today. He was the guy who said, why don't we sell T-shirts at the show with the band's name on them? Now, you think, well, merch, I guess when I went to see the Beatles, they had Beatles shirts. No, I didn't. When I went to see Hendrix, there are no Hendrix shirts. And now one of the biggest, probably the most lucrative part of the music business at this point is merchandising. And Herbie was the guy who said that. So anyway, Herbie was quite an amazing guy. And unknown to us, he contacted the Makita Power Tool Company in Japan. And because To Be With You was becoming a hit and things were blowing up and things were looking really good. And he asked them if they have ever had anyone endorse their products. No, they're a Power Tool Company. What would I do with that? And so he flew two executives from Makita to his office in San Francisco, brought his own translator and lawyer, explained to these gentlemen what endorsements were and how they worked and what artists did what for what companies and stuff. and quite a speech that he gave these guys. And he asked the translator, are they ready for the punchline? And they go, yeah. So he said, we'd like to find out if you would like Mr. Big to endorse Makita Power Tools. And they looked at each other and looked at him and goes, yes. Great. Then they said, how much? And Herbie replied, $1 million.
Whoa.
And they said, yes.
Wow.
Why? This is the greatness of Herbie Herbert. And sure enough, we got an endorsement deal with the Makita Power Tool Company. So we got new drills, and they were amazing to us. It wasn't like $1 million in cash; it was $1 million deal. Half of it went to tour support. We took some profit for ourselves, and Herbie took his well-deserved commission from that as well. But they were fantastic to us, and my workshop is jammed with Makita Power Tools. I'm a loyalist to them for all time as a result. And then they re-upped the deal later on. When that deal ran out, they did it again. And our Makita Power Tools have never failed us in the song "Daddy, Brother, Lover, Little Boy." They've been there for us reliably through the years. And as another side note, I apologize. At the end of the first term of our endorsement deal, they sent us the catalog and said, if you guys want anything, let us know and pick something out. So Torpy got a miter saw because he was doing some crown molding. So he had a good, like some kind of miter saw thing. I don't remember what Eric got, but Paul got his dad a couple of electric screwdrivers. And I felt bad about it because down at the end of the catalog was their generators. But geez, they're expensive. So I felt stupid answer. I go, is it possible to get one of the generators? I go, sure. So everybody got their thing, and nothing showed up in my house. So now they probably said, that's cool. I was way overreaching to get that. Unknown to me, it took them longer to ship it. So sure enough, this huge crate shows up at my house, and it's a Makita generator. And so I had it in my garage. It's still in the crate for the 94 quake in LA.
Wow.
Bang. I was out of town. Went out to get something to eat late at night, walked in my house at 4 a.m. and it hit. I was airborne inside my home, and everything got smashed to pieces. And I live in a building with 7 units, and we're all dear friends. So we all got together. We all shut off the gas and went around the thing. And, the panic. People were killed in that quake. Our building held up really well, and we got through the day and figuring things out. Nighttime's starting to come, and there's no power anywhere. And one thing goes, geez, what are we going to do? Nighttime's coming. We got no power. And I go, I got a generator in my garage. So we took a tube and siphoned gas out of a car, put it in the generator. The first pull, we're the only, in the blacked out LA, there's one little dot in Sherman Oaks, which is our condo, because we were the only people that had light for miles around. So again, thank you to the Makita Power Tool Company for our safety and comfort.
That is amazing. Now, I have to stick with lean into this and pivot a little bit away from Makita for this next question, but also go back to something we talked about earlier, which was Addicted to That Rush, because on the Lean Into It album, and this question actually comes from 14-year-old Brian, because I had the CD in 1991 listening to it, and there's a track on the album, CDFF, Lucky This Time, which, is short for compact disc fast forward speed, thus CDFF.
Yep.
14-year-old Brian would love to know whose idea that was to start Lucky This Time with that moment, because I'll be honest, I thought my CD player was on the fritz when I'm listening to it. It took me a few listens to figure out, oh my God, that's supposed to be here.
Yeah, I think that's Wind Me Up from the first record.
Oh, it's Wind Me Up. Yeah. That's amazing.
I believe it was. I might be wrong on it. But it goes that real fast. And your CD fast forward, it just plays little snippets of the song instead of speeding up like an analog record would. So I believe that was Wind Me Up, I think.
Well, with that, I'll CDFF to the next question, because while we're talking about Lean Into It, I don't think we could talk about Mr. Big's legacy without discussing To Be With You, the band's massive #1 single that topped the charts not only in the US, but around the world. Is it true that the band never intended for this to even be a single?
Yeah, we put it last on the record. If we would have known it was a hit, we would have led with it. Would have been the first song on the record. It would have saved us a lot of time. And because we toured forever, and we were about to end tour and go home and start thinking about the next record when To Be With You hit. So it was extra pressure on the band because we just toured the whole world. I made to retour the whole world again behind that hit, which meant some pretty grueling situations. We had a day off on the Rush tour where we flew to Berlin to be on a TV show. It was a variety show. It wasn't just for entertainment. And they had two other guests. One was a guest who was raising money for the Afghan victims of landmines. Terrible, sad situation. People that, walking through areas where there was fighting before and their legs blown off or they're killed. And so it was quite a sad situation. And then the next guest was a judge from Italy that was prosecuting the mafia. So the TV station was shut down with helicopters circling, snipers on the roof, armored personnel carriers surrounding with machine guns all over the place, big giant metal sheets in every room in case a bomb went off that they would stop the explosive. And once we got in there, we couldn't leave the building. So we couldn't go back and take a nap or anything like that. So we were in there and, the Afghan war landmine victims. Okay, the next segment, the guy talking about prosecuting the mafia, and it was somber and difficult. And, there's nobody could leave the building once they were in it, including the audience, and machine gun guys and snipers and helicopters. Unbelievable. And now Mr. Big. It was kind of fun. So we went out and just did, I think, a lip sync version of To Be With You. Curtain comes down back to the airport, fly back and to Atlanta to pick the Rush tour back up. So we were zombies. And that, as another aside, that's the show that Paul got the drill caught in his hair because he had the drill, and what he meant to do to the audience is like, do this, I can't hear you. So but he still had the drill in his hand. So he held his hand up and it just sucked in and he couldn't let go of it. And his guitar was feeding back. So I ran over to him on stage and get behind my amp. And he ran back there and I did a quick emergency bass solo while I'm looking over. He came back out. Now, when he was back there, the crew guy had a scissors. He goes, no, don't cut my hair. Just put it in reverse. And this is while the noise is going, the crowd is screaming and roaring. Put it in reverse and hit the trigger. So they did, and it went back the other way. Locked in there again. So we managed to get the bit out of the drill and get it out of there, and it came back. And the next day, Rush put power tools all over the stage, just as a comedy thing. So that's a B-side. Now, how did we get here? The original question was...
Oh, the original question was, was it true that the band never intended for this to be a single?
Yes.
How did the song get to the level it did, #1 all over the world?
Another backstory, apologize, I'll do it quickly. Atlantic Records hated the Lean Into It album. They hated the record. They did not want to release it. They weren't going to release it. Our manager had to fly to New York. They had to talk with the president of Atlantic Records. And our manager was a powerful guy at the time, one of the most powerful guys in the biz. And they had to call security when he was in the office of the president because there was so much screaming and pounding and smashing that it wasn't a physical fight, but screaming, yelling. And also finally Atlantic agreed to release the record, but they said, we're going to what they call sandbag it. In other words, they'll put it out. Screw you guys. You're on your own. We don't care what happens to it. We're not going to promote it. We're not going to do anything in it. We're not going to do any marketing. We're not going to do anything. GTFO. And that's the end of it. So Herbie knew a guy, I believe by the name of Jeff McCluskey. He was the most famous FM radio promotion guy in the country. He was the man, and Jeff was Herbie's friend. And so Herbie contacted Jeff and said, here's the situation. So we need some help on this record, blah, blah, blah. We had no record company backing us up. So Herbie found some guys to do it. And sure enough, the record came out. I think we did 2 or 3 singles first, and nothing quite happened. And then a guy named John Terry in Lincoln, Nebraska began playing it. And it began to get action. It got phones. People were calling up, who's the band? Oh, and all the people are also calling in to request it, all on its own. No record company help, no nothing. And then it started to act at retail. So there's the three things you need. You request, retail, and response calls, people calling in asking who it is. The metrics that they judge whether a record's doing well or not. And it was doing great. It started to shoot up. Things are going, it's reacting at retail. People are requesting it. It's looking really good. So Atlantic Records didn't believe it. They thought we made it up. They thought we had friends in Lincoln, Nebraska that we paid money to go on to the store and buy it. I swear to God, they thought that. So much so they flew a guy to Lincoln, Nebraska to see if it was even true. They didn't believe it. And sure enough, it went from Lincoln to other cities, and then to Boston, and then to Miami and Seattle and San Diego and all over the place, pretty much all on its own. And if that wasn't enough to add insult to injury, radio stations will only, at the time, not always a hard and fast rule, but nevertheless generally true, they'd add an artist from CBS Records to their playlist, a new song, from Atlantic, Warner, Elektra. They'd, to give everybody a fair shot, they'd add one artist from a label. So when they added Mr. Big, Atlantic would call the radio station, no, don't add the Mr. Big. We got a Phil Collins record we're working it. No. But they say, it's working for us. We're going to add it. So Atlantic even tried to stop it as it was going. And in the end, we got up into the top 20. We thought, wow, this is as high as this is going to go. But that's amazing. Then in the top 10. And then we had Prince and Michael Jackson both had a single that was probably going to go to number one. Right Said Fred with I'm Too Sexy for My Shirt was the number one song. And out of nowhere, Mr. Big popped into the number one for 3 weeks. And our minds were completely blown. And it went number one actually in 14 countries around the world. Right now it's at over 100 million views on YouTube and all that was great. So the addition to my story that's way too long, and I apologize for it, and any of you that are sleeping out there, I apologize, we had a meeting with Atlantic Records prior to the next record. And the president of Atlantic Records was sitting there at the meeting and said, I swear to God, he said this, I got 5 witnesses, 3 band members and 2 other people that are still my dear friend that were sitting at the table. And he said, yeah, the moment we heard To Be With You, we knew that was a hit. Didn't happen like that, bro. So that was the story of To Be With You. And when it was brought to us, Eric had it on, he co-wrote it with another guy, and he had it on a little cassette. And he kind of, I don't think, we kind of had to talk him into it. Because we heard it, me, Paul, and Pat, go, wow, it's a great little song. We should put it out like at the end of the album as the credits are rolling, at the end of the movie. And that'd be cool. Yeah. But we had to talk him into it. I'm sure he's glad now that he went along with our suggestion, because that's an extremely successful song. Pretty cool. But yeah, the little song that could.
Yeah, not to dive a little deeper into this Atlantic Records thing, but there was, if I remember correctly, a very successful music video that was also airing on MTV that contributed to this song's success. I've read that this video had a quote unquote shoestring budget.
Shoestring. Yeah, less than a shoestring.
What kind of shoestrings are we talking about here?
About maybe an eighth of what a normal video was going for at that time.
Wow.
We had a wonderful lady named Nancy Bennett who was our director for that. And we shot it in a train in Trade Town, which is a little train museum off Cahuenga Boulevard in North Hollywood. And that's why the long shot. They shot it in the train because we wanted a long room that could get up close and move back. And that was it. We went in and shot it in a day. And we had our fingers crossed. And it went to MTV number one for a long time. And they still play it on anything that plays videos. It's quite a amazing success in that. And we're so glad that it was organic, because there's a lot of ways to play the system to get a record to number one, now more than ever. And right around that time, they did a thing called Sound Scan, which means when you sold a record, they would scan it, and there was no fudge in the numbers. Because a record store could call and say, yeah, we just sold 100 copies. They sold 2, and that's just shooting up the chart But now you couldn't get away with that anymore.
Right.
And so it was a real number one for real. Because there's no shenanigans. There's still people will figure out a way no matter what. There's plenty of shenanigans that replace those shenanigans. But in fact, it was a real number one, which is mind blowing.
And then from the same album, Just Take My Heart was also a top 20 hit, reaching number 16 on the US Billboard Hot 100, number 26 on the UK singles chart, and cracked the top 20 in Canada, Finland, Ireland, the Netherlands, and Switzerland.
Just take my heart when you go. I don't have the need for it anymore. I always love you. You're too hard to hold. Just take my heart when you go.
On the Big Finish tour, the band was playing Lean Into It in its entirety.
Yes.
We talked about the singles. We talked about the Electric Drill song, To Be With You, Just Take My Heart. Were there any non-singles from Lean Into It that you played on this run that the band said, you know what? What a great song to be able to bring back into the Mr. Big fold.
Lucky this time. What a great song. I really love that song. And Never Say Never was another good one, too.
I wanna know if love of my day. Come take me time to think about what you done.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. The music biz is an unusual set of rules and circumstances that you have to learn to play that game. And I didn't know anything about it. Fortunately, again, we had Herbie Herbert, who is a grandmaster, literally, of that game. And he was the man responsible for it all. Pretty awesome.
Well, we did talk about 1993's Bump Ahead earlier when we were talking about Colorado Bulldog. While we're on that album for a brief second here, I do want to bring up the band's incredible cover of Cat Stevens' Wild World, which is also included on the Big Finish Live album.
Oh, baby, baby, it's a wild world. It's hard to get by just upon a smile. Oh, baby, baby, it's a wild world. And I always remember you like a child.
I've always been a huge fan of cover songs, and I talk about them all the time on this show. I'd love to know the mindset behind what Mr. Big as a band was thinking, putting their stamp on an already iconic song.
Well, for the next record, Bump Ahead, Atlantic record, now that we had a hit, they wanted another To Be With You. We said, yeah, but we don't want to really, we don't copy, because a lot of bands in the old days did that. The next single sounded like the first one. We said, nah, and fortunately we had Herbie as our guy, so we could have an opinion. So we said, I don't know. I mean, we doing another acoustic ballad, we love it and we play it, and I still love it to this day. But, that was then, that was a thing. And so we're kind of at a dilemma, and the label is demanding, and Paul had a song that went, and it didn't quite catch. We had a lot of songs that we didn't fully record. It was a cool thing, but for some reason it wasn't quite working in our mind. And I remember saying, wait a minute, that's Wild World, like Cat Stevens. Oh, yeah, cool. So we checked out a version of it. It's in a pretty low key. So we changed the key to bring it up for Eric's voice. And the song itself, if you listen to the original recording, it's a masterpiece. I love Cat Stevens, and I love that song. But it's not your traditional drum track, kick hat, snare, and then the bass, and then the guitar, put together like so many songs. It was just kind of, there's a little snare hit kind of happens. It's a floating. It's not like a rock band playing a song. And so we kind of did it more of our way, a little bit more cohesive by modern standards. But I was a huge Cat Stevens fan. Catch Bullet 4, that record, the Peace Train, when that single first came out, I loved it. So an interesting thing happened, though. It was during the time that some of the situation in the world politics with the Islamic terrorism thing was starting up, and we started to catch heat for playing a song by Cat Stevens, who had converted to Islam. So we go to radio stations in America, and they go, "Oh, no, what about this? You're contributing to the..." They say, "Well, no, we just love Cat Stevens, and it's a beautiful song, and it's everybody, we're school. There's no political agenda or support of anything bad here, Cat's a wonderful guy, and we love his music, and we don't want to get involved in that." And but some stations gave us trouble for that. Unknown to us, in Indonesia, which is an Islamic country, we played there a lot. It's one of the first Western bands to play in some cities in Indonesia. It was amazing. The crowds were incredible. The people, thousands of people at the airport getting hurt by fans trying to get in the hotel, and it was a total pandemonium. So unknown to us, they were watching, and we stuck up for Cat Stevens. So when we went back to Indonesia, we were the heroes. That somebody actually said something good about them and their people, and which is something I believe. There's every element of political or religious groups. There's a bad element, but there's mostly good. I think not. That's a generality, but and there's some wonderful people down there that we love dearly. And so we had an amazing. I get more email to this day from Indonesia than anywhere in the world. So pretty cool.
Well, you're sitting there holding your bass, and me being a bass player and you being one of my biggest inspirations on the instrument, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up your bass solo from the Big Finish Live. Is this track something you composed specifically in advance for the tour, or is your bass solo a different experience each and every evening? Because to me, it sounds like you're bringing this dynamic, I almost want to call it cinematic approach to a bass solo. And I'd just like to get inside your head, because having seen it live, I'm at a loss for words. And as a guy who talks on a podcast, that doesn't happen very often.
Well, that's very, very kind of you. No, I kind of just let nature take its course. There's some parts that I'll do that same part, but it's never the same really. It's different night to night. And it came from years ago. We got the name of the band from the song Mr. Big by Free.
So Mr. Big, better watch out. Don't you hang around me now. For you, I will dig a great big hole in the ground.
We used to play that song in Tallis in the old days. So we're at the Poorhouse West in Hamburg, New York in the early 70s, and playing that song. And there's an extended jam in the middle where the bass player for Free, Andy Frazier, amazing player, does a bass solo with the band playing. And so I would always do a little thing there because I loved Andy Frazier, and it was a chance for me to do my little shtick. And one night I said to the band, wait, what if you guys just stop? And I'll just go off, and then I'll cue you to come back in. Okay. So that night, they just stopped, and I went, did my squiggly bits and all that. And they loved it because they got a chance to go get a beer and talk to some girls while I was up there sweating away, and come back 2, 3, 4, and come back into the song again. And so I started doing it on a regular basis. Then I thought, I'm kind of getting, kind of tired of it, so I'll stop. And then people say, wait, what happened to the bass solo? Where's the bass solo? And I was like, they demanded in a comedy way. So I went back to doing it. And so doing a bass solo every night, even when you're not inspired or there's 10 people there, forces you to dig really deep and come up with a lot of ideas and ways to make it interesting. And we were playing clubs with people dancing and a solo thing. Generally, that would be, so I had to make it entertaining to people who normally wouldn't listen to a thing like that. And that was a great stress on me to force me to come up with ways to make it entertaining to non-bass players and non-musicians to some degree. So doing that for a decade or more got me up to the point where I got somewhat competent at being able to put something together that is somehow interesting to most, I doubt never all, most people. And we kept it in there. So that was the evolution of that. And then by the time Mr. Big comes, unaccompanied solos were becoming common. Ed Van Halen's Eruption, of course, and then everybody had a thing where they did their solo thing. But back in 1973, or maybe even earlier than that, I'm not sure when that song came out, when the song Mr. Big came out. But since I've been doing it since then, it kind of made sense that I could pull disparate parts together and create a somewhat unified thing.
Amazing. Well, when you and I talked on episode 13, one of the things you said was the biggest thing you wanted to do with this final Mr. Big tour was to honor the legacy of Pat Torpy and to celebrate the band's music with one final goodbye. Looking back on this run, did it bring the band as well as the fans the honor and celebration you were hoping for when we talked all the way back when?
Absolutely, and then some. It was a wonderful thing. So many friends came out to these shows. If they weren't anywhere near us, people flew in. Our shows in Germany, people flew in from Korea, Singapore, Japan, all over the USA, from South America, from all over the rest of Europe. Friends, and we were always very close with our fans. So so many people. The front row was jammed. We knew everybody in the front row. It was amazing. And we'd always dedicate a song to Pat.
In the spirit and the love of our dear departed brother, Pat Torpy. Yeah. And the signature, an iconic beat. Check this out. All right, Nick, rip it.
Take Cover, which is this great drum beat that he did, and Nick DiVirgilio. And then also when he had to skip a few shows with us, Edu Comanato from Brazil came in and played. Both of them did an amazing job. Nick, amazing drummer, great singer. He'll be, he was with us from the very beginning of this tour. Amazing. And we start that song, and it would always be a dedication to the memory of Pat Torpy. And I think we did it right by him. And he was always on our minds and always within the conversation, talking about Pat and what happened here and there and all the things we remembered about him. And Nick did such a great job of the finesse and nuance that was a lot of Pat's playing. It's hard to duplicate. It's like a fingerprint or DNA or the iris of your eye. It's a unique thing for every drummer. And he was really great. He brought his own style to it as well. But still, he paid a great tribute to Pat, and we pay him a great honor. And the gentleman from Brazil, also Edu, they did a great job of that. So I think we did it right to give Pat the honor that he so surely deserved for his awesomeness and how touched so many people were who knew him. Truly wonderful, great guy. And we paid the proper tribute.
Well, with the Mr. Big chapter officially closed, what's next for Billy Sheehan, musically speaking?
I've got about 3 or 4 configurations of players that I'm talking with and discussing a couple things with. A couple of offers from some bands that I'm thinking about. But I live to play live, and I play live to live. So I'm going to play until they wheel me out, and then some. Until they roll me out on my back, and I got the bass in there because I'm just playing forever. I always want to play. It's so essential to me. So I don't know yet, but hopefully I'll be out touring again by next summer.
Well, Billy, for the second time I get to say this to you, this has been an absolute honor. I'm so glad our musical paths were able to cross again. Thank you so much for joining me on My Weekly Mixtape.
Thank you very, very much for having me, and I hope I see you around somewhere somehow.
And to all those listening today, I'd like to thank you and let you know that you can find My Weekly Mixtape on almost all the social media haunts at My Weekly Mixtape. You can also head to myweeklymixtape.com to check out the full catalog of My Weekly Mixtape episodes. And if you like what you're hearing on the show, you can help me out by either telling a friend, leaving the show a 5-star review wherever you're tuning in, or becoming a Patreon mixtaper at patreon.com/My Weekly Mixtape. There you can enjoy ad-free episodes of the show, chime in on upcoming topics, become a future guest, and so much more. That's all for this week. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, enjoy the tunes.